So I just wanted to record a video today looking at The Body Shop, as the news came out a few days ago about it going into administration. This is a brand and a company that has huge heritage all over the world, but obviously being a British company as well. One obviously very close to home, that I'm in Ireland, or was in Ireland, and one that's very well known even here in Indonesia. So kind of fascinating, right? And we can see that it was purchased 3 months ago by a private equity firm, a German one called Aurelius, which is fascinating because you would assume during due diligence that they would see a case where they would need to go into administration. Administration meaning that they cannot pay their debtors essentially, and ultimately they need to go into administration so that their assets don't get taken essentially, and then it gets divided up. So let's see what it says here in the article. So yeah, they have been unable to revive the fortunes, which is pretty funny really, because not funny in the sense that the business has to close, but it's been 3 months, so I'm not sure what's meant to happen within 3 months. They should have really known assumably what they're getting into. For it to fail that soon after is very surprising. Now I don't know much about the firm, but I assume they are experienced, raising concerns about the future. So this was started back in 1976 by human rights campaigner, environmental and human rights campaigner Anita Roddick. So a company that does obviously environmental, societal, tries to not use bad ingredients. So very admirable company in what they're trying to do. And let's see what it says as the reasons for it closing down. So they have 200 shops in the UK, a distribution centre. However, they do have shops worldwide as well. They faced an extended period of financial challenges coinciding with difficult trading environment. So we'll update its creditors in due course. No, I should say its creditors, pay its creditors. You receive from your debtors, I should say. Okay, interesting. So they're saying the brand might survive with fewer shops. It's kind of fascinating how they managed to, within 3 months, though, go into administration. One of the things I actually thought of, and maybe it couldn't be any further from the truth really, but one of the things I thought of is in some situations the real estate is actually worth more than the business itself. So while the shops and the head office, etc., is worth a certain amount of money, even if it was not trading well, the lowest they can get, assumably if they bought this company, the lowest valuation they can get is probably the real estate that all that stands under. So one thing that stood out to me was I was wondering who the previous owner was before the German private equity firm, because if it was an English firm, there would have been a lot of bad PR, and there would have been a lot of bad basically PR, and they would have been getting a lot of hate essentially, because they would not optically want to close down or go into administration with a brand like The Body Shop, which has a lot of heritage in Britain. So my initial thinking, and maybe I was being a little bit cynical, but who knows, in this situation it's very common, is that maybe that it was sold off with the view that it might go into administration. Obviously this is just my opinion, but that it might go into administration, and the real estate which it stands under is actually the value or the floor in valuation. It's been done before, and it's obviously very common. So it could be possible. Sell it off to a foreign private equity firm, send it into administration, whereby saying that we can't do anything, we have to close the company down, we have to fire staff, is a lot easier to say as a foreign owner rather than as a local owner or a British owner. So I don't know if anyone knows who the previous owner was, or if we're about to reveal it in the actual article here, but if you do, post it in the comments below and let me know. So let's read the rest of this next. Close down.
If you're enjoying the content, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below for future videos. Now back to business.
So Next potentially bidding for it. So Next has acquired some brands, Cat Kitchen, Fat Face, Argos, snapping up dozens of brands from out there. Okay, interesting. Yeah, so Next could be in line to purchase this. Who knows? Okay, not one that could work as a wholesale collection. Maybe because it's that much higher priced. Body Shop is generally higher priced because of its ethical sourcing. Yeah, it makes sense. Okay, there was one thing that I seen here as well, which I thought was pretty interesting, is the ex-CEO here. This guy's name is David Boynton. Now, look, assumably a guy of a lot of experience, but within like a few hours or a couple of days it is being announced, he's basically, to me, posting a lot of nonsense, because I don't even think that Anita Roddick, and like, she obviously is an environmental human rights campaigner, but I would assume she understand that keeping in business is very important. Now, given that she's not around, obviously don't know her or want to put words in her mouth, but I can imagine keeping the business going, it would be a key thing, and this guy here is basically chatting about a lot of the environmental and ethical things they've done. So I'm not quite sure why it's the time to start talking about this. Maybe because he's trying to defend himself a little bit, because he was the CEO for 5 or 6 years, up until I think last year. So he's talking about all of this fair trade and stuff, which is obviously admirable. But this stuff should all be, in my opinion, this should all be done with a view of keeping in business. It makes very little sense to be putting great emphasis on this environmental and ethical things if you're going to go out of business. Now, assumably they had a way of doing this before, because they've been in business for 40 years. So quite frankly, this is still a failing on the CEO, because if Anita or whoever it was, CEO before, was able to do a lot of these great things but actually maintain the business, then that's something that's applaudable. However, I don't agree with this nonsense of posting we've done all this sort of stuff as it goes into administration. That's just, like, with all due respect, it's just nonsense, because you basically sent the business into administration anyway. It's failed over the past few years. It didn't fail within 3 months. So this one is curious to me, and I don't know why he's posting all of this, because ultimately for me, there's people's jobs on the line. The people that work in the shops, people that work in the head office, they're thinking about paying the rent to keep their family, keep a shelter or a roof over their family, keep food on the table. They're not to be posting about like environmental things halfway across the world. Yes, of course, as I said, it's admirable, but ultimately your job is to keep people employed. You have a responsibility to your employees first, before you have a responsibility to the rest of the world, because they're relying on you. So this stuff is all just nonsense to me.
If you're enjoying the video, make sure you hit the like button below. Now back to business.
With the context that, yes, this is great, but you got to keep your business you got to keep yourself in business. And the ironic thing around this is, feel proud. The Body Shop team should feel proud. Yeah, maybe the team should feel proud. The people that are working in maybe the head office are lower, but the executive team, I don't think there's any way you can feel proud of sending the business into administration. So I'm not really sure what this is all about. Of course, yes, it's great to do fair trade and, as he hashtags here, conscious capitalism. But the business has to exist for it to be applaudable. Otherwise, it's a failing on this guy, for me. There's no doubt about that. And all this is complete nonsense. Now, what is actually interesting as well is having seen this, and then I checked back in a few days later, and I could see that now a week later, he's then posted up about the people losing their jobs. I mean, yeah, a little bit too late here for me, because this should be your first thought. Your heart goes out to all the people. Meanwhile, the first post he made was basically defending all the ethical environmental practices they were doing, rather than the concern for the employees first. So this is not really for me. And of course, this guy clearly is older, has probably a great amount of experience in business, but it's not my philosophy. Your job is to keep people in business, of course, doing the right thing, but number one, staying in business. And this may be where the sort of stakeholder versus shareholder theory or governance comes in, whereby with shareholder theory, you're basically trying to maximize the return on shareholders. So basically maximize their valuation, which to me is obviously not optimum in some cases. And then the opposite appears to be what this guy is talking about, just pure stakeholder theory, in that you're doing it for the benefit of the whole world. You're in business for the benefit of the whole world. And there's obviously a lot of credence in that too, but ultimately one way or the other is completely wrong. And it looks like this is complete stakeholder theory, and to me just nonsense at this point, because they're going out of business. So to me, I'm not sure why he came out defending himself. I'm not sure why there's any credit due for people that send businesses out of or into administration. That to me is nonsense. Your job is to your allegiance is to your employees, obviously your shareholders, but then obviously the greater world as well. And it's not the time for talking about your accomplishments when all those jobs are at risk. So I hope this is interesting, and I will post an update as they come out, because obviously we're being one of the biggest well-known brands in the UK, but also the world as well. And never good to see a business go out of business. Now I'd imagine they will resume, or they will continue in some form, maybe online. But right now, yeah, not good to see. And some of the stuff here is kind of nonsensical. So I would wonder what's going on with the private equity firm that acquired them. Within 3 months is kind of shocking, really, to then go into administration, unless of course it was the plan the whole time. Again, if it is the plan the whole time, who was holding the business before it? Was that a British owner? Maybe that was a bit strategic to sell it to a foreign private equity firm and then send it into administration, because they couldn't send it into administration because of the bad PR and the bad optics. And then ultimately this guy chatting to me a load of nonsense about his accomplishments and stuff. And I'm sure, yes, some of this is very admirable, but to every employee that works in the company, your job is ultimately keep them in business, keep a roof over their families' heads, and then take care of the rest of the world or the stakeholders involved. So yeah, that's a wrap. If you like this video, check out the one right here where I talk about Thrasio preparing for bankruptcy.